Welcome to the Bike Talk with Dave podcast. I'm your host, Dave Mabel. Thanks for tuning in. My guest this week is an old friend, but one whom I've recently reconnected with as he's started to join our early morning group rides, which is both good and bad because I always enjoy talking with him, and he's a solid wheel. He's not going to get dropped, but dang is he fast. He ups the mile per hour average. Anyway, I don't want this to go to his head, but he is fast on a bike. He's not only fast on the bike, he's a great runner and he's a great swimmer too. And when he puts them all together, he is a great triathlete. He's won Ironman races in both Lake Placid and Mont Tremblant, and he has a handful of other podium finishes at like Ironman Arizona, Coeur d'Alene, and even Wisconsin, as well as a ton of podium finishes and victories at the half Ironman distance, the 70.3s. As an engineer and a guy who likes to go fast on his bike, he was always tinkering with his bike and his handlebar setup. Yes, his handlebar setup. He was always curious, always working to squeeze out a little more speed out of his bike. I remember him. We have stories. Just stay tuned in and listen. And it's out of that desire for more speed that his bike brand, Dimond Bikes, was born. And it's an interesting story. And I love how, really, a local high school soccer player would come to own an internationally renowned bike brand with a range of models from super speedy, you gotta go look at them, triathlon bikes, to road, gravel, and even an awesome lightweight, super fast mountain bike. So I met up with TJ at the Dimond headquarters in downtown Des Moines, what he calls the Diamond Mine, and we had a great chat. So I'd like to introduce you to the founder, the owner of Dimond Bikes, TJ Tollakson. TJ Tollakson, what a treat to have you on Bike Talk with Dave. Honestly, it's about dang time. An accomplished triathlete living in Des Moines, and you also started a bike company a couple years ago, Dimond Bikes. So
yeah, a long time ago, but yeah, I've been around a while.
Yeah, I've been around a while. I love it. And I also love that I've been seeing you on the morning group rides, and it's getting a little colder, and you're still showing up.
Yeah, like I said earlier, I think last Wednesday was probably the final Wednesday of the You Me Compete. We had a good group on Friday, but I was the only one on the You Me ride, and I'll tell my joke now about it because last Wednesday it was the Mimi ride, and the Mimi ride is a lot more fun with you. So hopefully that's the last time it's the Mimi ride, and we'll just wait till the weather turns again and hop back in.
Yeah, no doubt. It's been a great summer, always is. I don't know. I'm sure every town has their group rides, but I don't know. I feel like ours is it's good. It's a solid ride and good camaraderie. Like we have breakfast every now and again. You hosted a breakfast here at the Diamond Mine, which I just think that's cool. I think it's a good community, good camaraderie.
Yeah, it's awesome. It's a really cool group. Probably the best thing, right? I mean, almost every day in the summer, somebody hosted breakfast on Friday, right? I mean, every Friday morning at the shelter. It's awesome because this is super close to the park, so I was able to host here. And we were actually thinking it was better to host it later because it was cold, and people were like, well, let's wait till it's cold and host it inside at TJ's. So that's what we did. But I'm fine. I could host it once a month. That's not a problem. I like making pancakes. You could ask my kids. I am a pancake connoisseur. I have methods and techniques, and for most of the people that showed up here, we did extra thick on the request of Teddy Longnecker.
Fair enough.
He says he likes them extra thick, so sure enough, he got them. But, I do all kinds of things, even the little bitty thin pancakes they call crepes. Make those too, so.
I'm curious, what got you into triathlon in the first place? Like you you dove deep into it.
So I played soccer my freshman year at Boston University. Soccer was like my favorite sport growing up. It's what I wanted to do. But, you know, I was also a little bit cursed in that I played 4 varsity sports in high school, right? I ran cross country, I played soccer, I wrestled, and I swam.
You wrestled?
I wrestled. I wrestled my senior year varsity at 152 pounds.
Wow.
And yeah, I grew up wrestling and loved it, and like I'd already, you know, kind of finished my high school soccer career at that point, my senior year, and I just said, you know what, I want to join the wrestling team my senior year and do it. So I wrestled up through 8th grade, and then I had to choose swimming or wrestling my freshman year of high school, and yeah, I was a good swimmer too, so I chose swimming, and then went back and wrestled, and I said it's both good and bad, right? I mean, you can have the multi-sport debate with all kinds of people and hear different answers, and you know, I chose to do you know, 3 sports my senior year of high school, and not a lot of kids are able to do that, and it's both a benefit and a detriment. You know, I would say it allowed me to be a pro triathlete because I had a varied skill set, but it kind of holds you back a little bit, not focusing a ton on any one thing, right? And so, you know, if I had to choose one of those things, it probably would have been soccer. But, you know, you look back, I mean, the soccer landscape has changed tremendously in that 30-year period, right? And so a lot of things have changed, but I played soccer in Boston University. I transferred to the University of Iowa. I had some roommates who studied abroad in Australia from the University of Iowa, and they came back all gung-ho on wanting to do a triathlon. And so these friends started the triathlon club team at the University of Iowa. The Tri-Hawks is what they go by. And I was one of the first members of that team. And at that time, I was already huge. I got really big into weightlifting. I did this Bill Phillips Body for Life 12-week challenge. I got up to 200 pounds, and then these guys wanted to do this triathlon, so I went on this crazy diet, 1,200 calorie a day diet, lost a ton of muscle in a matter of months, and I raced my very first triathlon in 2001, the Corn Man Triathlon, Gladbrook, Iowa. It no longer exists. It was a sprint. And the most vivid memory of that day, and I was on a road bike, and I had clip-on aero bars on it, and it was this giant Cadex road bike that I bought from Kelly Green at Bike World, if anybody's remembers Kelly from Bike World days.
I remember Kelly.
So that was my first road bike, and I can remember this first triathlon, I was the first one out of the water, and I'm kind of just jogging into transition, and the next few guys just sprint by me running into transition, and I was like super taken aback by it. I was like, man, I didn't know I was supposed to run this fast into transition, and you know, then the rest of the day, it's really just kind of counting how many people pass me on bikes, you know, and at that point, you start to see the bike tech that these people have, right? Disc wheels and tri-spokes and not road bikes with clip-on bars, you know. And but I had a blast that first triathlon, and that's what I say. I kind of got hooked, you know. I raced that summer of 2001 and did my first Olympic distance that year at Big Creek, and then then I raced a couple years at collegiate nationals, like the club triathlon, and my senior year I was pretty good at that distance, but it wasn't until I graduated from Iowa and I moved to the Quad Cities and started working for Alcoa Aluminum. I met these guys that were the Quad City Triathlon Club at the time. Jeff Castro was my first ever coach in it, but these guys were super into Ironmans and training, and they had a group ride just like we do, and they rode Tuesdays and Thursdays, and different route from Tuesday and Thursday. Jeff Bradley was one of the kind of regular guys that rode. Jeff, if people don't know Jeff Bradley, he was raced in the 1984 Olympics in Los Angeles, racing the Tour de France, was Greg LeMond's best man. Greg LeMond's oldest son is actually Jeff, after Jeff Bradley. But Jeff's kind of another Iowa local legend, and again, he's in the Quad Cities, so not every Des Moines person knows him. But we had a great group of riding, and man, I would show up to these rides, no different. I see these college kids that show up at the UME ride, and it's the same thing. Like, I would get dropped every week, and it was just like, and this was back, like, it's like our Tuesday night ride. This is not a no drop ride, right? This is a drop and see you later.
See ya.
Like,
yeah, good luck getting home.
Yeah, find your own way home.
Right.
So that's what I was doing. And so every week it was just like, hang on a little longer. And I went from, when I moved there, cycling was my weakest because I was a swimmer and runner in high school, to in a few months that summer, cycling became my strength. I won my first triathlon overall in that fall of 2001, of 2003 when I graduated from college. And from there, I just kind of went on a tear, and I won like the Chicago Triathlon and Memphis in May and Lifetime Fitness. I won the biggest like age group Olympic distance triathlons in the country. And I got invited to go live and do a camp at the Olympic Training Center in Chula Vista. It's a cool story because I was working at Alcoa Aluminum. At this point, I'm living in Hutchinson, Kansas, which is a small town about 45 minutes northwest of Wichita. And it was an aerospace center. It was a small facility. And their claim to fame really is that if anybody remembers the American Airlines jets with the shiny polished aluminum on them, every Boeing jet actually had that shiny polished aluminum. So it's called polished skin sheet. And all of that went through that little facility in Hutchinson, Kansas. So if you remember those planes, they were super cool, and it was awesome because not only did those planes look cool, but it saved a ton of money in airline fuel because the plane was so much lighter without paint over the top of it.
Paint is, you don't think about paint.
Yeah.
My kids build rockets, and paint is freaking heavy.
Yes.
You don't think about it.
Yeah, it's really heavy.
Yeah.
It's really heavy, especially when you repaint it and put coats of it on there. And so bare aluminum airplanes are more fuel efficient. So anyway, so I was living there, and I won these big triathlons, get invited to the Olympic Training Center, asked my boss to take a 3-month leave of absence to go to this 12-week camp in Chula Vista. And I go to that camp, first couple weeks I'm training. On Monday, I have a meeting with like the head national team coach, and at this point I still don't have like a pro license, but the head coach at the time, Libby, met with me, and she was like, hey, I think you need to take out your pro license so you can get on these start lists and we can get you in the mix for this season. I said, okay, this is great. And then Wednesday, March 3rd, 2004, is that right? 2005. Wednesday, March 3rd, 2005, I was in an accident on the crit course at the Olympic Training Center, crashed my bike, broke my collarbone, and man, it was absolutely devastating. I was like, I don't know what I'm supposed to do now. Like, I just got here. I guess I go back to work. But the coolest part of this whole story, Dave, was that when we're at the Olympic Training Center, we had this opportunity to spend a day training with the Navy SEALs. So I broke my collarbone on Wednesday, and Saturday we're supposed to go train with the Navy SEALs. So I convinced the coaches to let me stay at the center, that I'm definitely leaving and I'm going to go back to work. Because I'm not getting paid at this point, right? So I'm going to go back to work, but I said I want to stay and I want to do this day training with the Navy SEALs. So we're like, okay, no big deal. We don't know what you're going to be able to do when you're there.
You have a broken collarbone, and these are Navy SEALs.
But you can do what you want. So we go there, and they put us in this big lecture room on Coronado Island at the SEAL Training Center. And they give us the presentation that they give people who sit in the room about how elite you have to be just to sit in that room. And they go through how many people are in the armed forces, and then how many people go to special forces training school, go to BUDS, and then go to SEAL school. And so it's, you know, the elite of the elite that make it and sit in that classroom.
Right.
And during this presentation, they flip on the light switch, and this drill sergeant goes, "Everybody on the floor and give me 20 push-ups." Okay? So I get down on the floor, and I've got a broken collarbone, so I start doing one-arm push-ups. And this
Can
guy,
you do a one-arm push-up?
yeah, I mean, I could still do a one-arm push-up if you want. If we had some video, I could show you. But
I'm out.
I start doing one-arm push-ups, and this guy runs over and stands over to me, and he says, "Who the F do you think you are, Superman? I say push-ups, you're going to do one-arm push-ups all day?" And I just said, I'm sorry, sir, I have a broken collarbone." And he just looks at the coach, and he's like, "Superman over here have a broken collarbone?" And the coach was like, "Yes." He said, "When did you break that collarbone, Superman?" And I said, "Wednesday." And he goes, like, "Wednesday this week?"
What are you doing here?
And I said, "Yes, Wednesday this week." And he said, "All right, Superman." He said, "From now on, I say push-ups, you do sit-ups." And so for the rest of the day, my name was Superman. Like, that was it. It was done. The guy called me Superman.
I don't know how that hasn't stuck to this day.
Yeah, nobody else calls me Superman. Just one day at the training center. That's
I'm recording this, right?
Yeah, that's great.
I'm putting it out on the airwaves.
Right. But that was the nickname for the day, which was good. But we go through the rest of this presentation. We sit down, and they said, everybody who sits in this classroom has the physical capability to become a Navy SEAL. And they said, and that includes the people that are sitting in this classroom right now. Every one of you has the physical ability to become a Navy SEAL. They said, the difference is we're looking for those special people that have the mental capacity to become a SEAL. And they said, if you're sitting in this classroom because you want to see if you have what it takes to become a Navy SEAL, you may as well leave right now because you're not going to do it. They said, the Navy SEALs are looking for people who would rather die than fail at their mission. Plain and simple, that's what we need. And so they said, you have to have so much conviction in your life that this is what you're going to do, that you would rather die trying this than fail or drop out. And so, you drop out at SEAL school, you got to go ring the bell, and it's kind of an embarrassing, shameful thing. And so, this just is stuck in my head. I keep thinking about this, conviction that you need, and we go through the rest of the training, and it's fantastic. I mean, we do, we're doing the rafts in the water, right? Carry the raft over your head, go out in the water. We're doing the sit-ups in the ocean with the log on our chest, right? And so everything there is a race or a competition. And they've got a saying that it says it pays to be a winner. And whoever individually wins or team wins, they get rewarded, everybody else gets punished. And they say that it's one of their mantras is pays to be a winner. And so everything was a competition. We did that. The one thing I wasn't able to do was the obstacle course because I couldn't climb a rope with one arm. So I didn't do that.
Maybe.
Yeah, maybe. Right. So we did the drown-proof training, though, which is really cool. Is they dump you in a pool that's 2 meters deep, and you have your hands tied behind your back and your legs tied together. And you have to bob up and down in the pool just to survive, right? And so they call it drown-proof training, and they tell you how to do this before, but it's really a lesson in panic. And I remember the axiom that the drill sergeant said. He said 99% of life boils down to one simple axiom: never panic. And they said, you want to get yourself in trouble real fast, panic. If you could stay calm, you're going to be all right. So the trick to doing this is, and it's frightening to think about this, but you got your arms behind your back, your legs tied together. You actually have to exhale all the air out of your lungs so you sink. You can't push yourself down, right? You can't propel yourself. So the only way you sink is you've got to get rid of these big air pockets called lungs, you've got to deflate them. So you blow all the air out and your body sinks all the way to the bottom. And if you get down there, right, and you feel like you're out of breath but you can't touch, you've got to blow out even more to make sure you can get down there and touch, push off the bottom as hard as you can, spring back to the top, take a breath, big long breath, and then you're going right back down.
Wow.
Okay, so you got to learn how to do that. And then the other thing they make you do, it's a 50-meter pool, it's 2 meters deep, is they make you swim down and back across the pool with your hands tied behind your back and your legs tied together. So you're kind of, it's more of a bob than it is a swim. But again, and it's exhausting to do it. And so you have to kind of like take breaks and learn how to do it. But again, the idea behind it is, what if you were a prisoner of war and you were handcuffed and shackled like this? Could you survive if you fell out of a plane, right? Like that's one of their things. Absolutely fantastic day. I mean, it's still, obviously I'm talking about it, I can still put myself there and think about that. But as I went back to work, I kept thinking about all these things from the Navy SEAL training. And the biggest one to me was the conviction that you have to be successful. And at that point, I just said, you know, I'm gonna rehab this, finish work, and then I'm gonna have to tell my boss that I'm done working, because if I want to be a professional triathlete, I've got to have 100% conviction that this is the thing that I'm doing. Like, this is what I'm gonna do, and I'm gonna make sure that I'm successful at it. And I will say it was way harder than I'd given any thought to. Again, like, I'd won the biggest amateur races in the country, but still that jump to the top of the pro ranks, whoa. I mean, like, you know, you think you're good, and then you go race somebody who's really good, a world champion, and you're just like, wow, there's a big gap there, and so I've got to close it. And I spent the next couple years kind of chasing that, and I spent a winter living on the Gold Coast of Australia and training, and it took a lot, and I had a lot of bad races, or I would say bad, but mediocre races where I would show up and, you know, get 5th or 6th place in a half Ironman. I took 4th once my first year pro. You know, and it's like you make $1,000 or $1,500, you know, and sometimes it's $500, you know, but it costs you that much money just to get to the race. And,
for sure.
And so it's a tough way to try to make a living. And you know, it wasn't until, so this is March of 2005, I break my collarbone. June of 2007, I win my first major, which was the Eagleman 70.3. So Eagleman's one of the first half Ironman distance races in the country. It's one of the biggest. It's had tremendous pro fields over the years. It used to be a Kona qualifying race that you could qualify for the Ironman World Championships at a half. Fantastic race. And I remember I raced there the year before and was like 5th or 6th place in that race. Had the fastest bike split. That was my strength, and then faded on the run and finished 5th or 6th. And I remember having a conversation with like the pro coordinator in 2007, trying to convince him to comp my entry, like give me a free entry into the race. And I was like, I did this last year, and I don't remember, I was 5th or 6th, like I had the fastest bike, give me a free entry, and like he was super hesitant to do it. He was like, you know, like, I don't know, finally relents, gives me a free entry. And then even during the race that year, again, I not only had the fastest bike in 2007, but I set the bike course record, bike to 2:02 over 56 miles, and the announcer, I get in the transition, I can hear him. This is the pro liaison, and he's saying, don't worry, folks, we've seen this before. He's been in the lead, and guess what? The runners are coming, so don't expect him to stay out in front. So wow. I can hear him over the loudspeaker saying this.
That's cold, man.
And then the difference was this race, I'm running, and I'm already past 1 mile before the next guy comes into transition. So I have, you know, minutes lead over everybody else. And at this point, the announcer's still like, but it's a hard, it's a hot, windy course. Will he have enough to stay in front? And I did, and I won the race by a lot that day. And I was nervous the whole way, right? I mean, like, there's a turnaround, so I could kind of gauge my distance to the next place. And Australian guy Richie Cunningham was a killer runner, but he was the guy running me down, and I'm super nervous, and like, I don't want to let off the gas at all, right? Because I'm like, dude, if this guy smells blood, he's coming after me. But I won that first race in 2007, and then Ashley and I were actually eating crab cakes at a little place on the Chop Tank River after the race, and Tony DeBoom called me. And Tony is the older brother of the Ironman world champion, Tim DeBoom. Mm-hmm. Tim and Tony were both pro triathletes. They grew up, went to Cedar Rapids, Washington. And Tony called me and he said, TJ, today is the day the rest of your life changes. And I said, thanks, what do you mean? And he said, just wait. He said, I wanted to be the first one to call you and tell you this, but everything changes from here on out. And he was right. Like, the very next week, I went from having sponsors that were giving me product to sponsors who were paying me. Huh. And it happened just like that, right? As I went from, knocking on the door to a big win to a really big win, and it literally changed everything. And so I had a fantastic year in 2007. I finished in the top 10 at the 70.3 World Championships that year, and literally everything changed. I raced my first Ironman that year and took third after leading from the swim to 18 miles on the run. But Tony was right. Like, my life changed at that point, and I got a little taste at winning, and I'd like to say I had the ability to win more races in my pro career, but I won a handful of big pro races, and went on and raced 17 years as a pro.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's a great story. And I was ready to say, after your Navy SEAL story, like, great podcast, thanks for coming and talking. Like, that's freaking awesome. I used to say to people, like, when Hy-Vee Triathlon was in Des Moines, and what a great freaking event that was. Yeah. Unbelievable. And I remember you, like, I can't believe you would have not been in the front group, but I feel like you were not in the front group coming out of the water.
That's right.
And everybody just gets on your wheel.
Oh, yeah.
And you tell them through the whole freaking course, like, all right, let's go, man. Let's go, TJ. You're a great biker, that's for sure. But you'd walk into Hy-Vee in the weeks before the event, it would say, try a try.
Yeah.
And I'm like, don't try a try, do a try.
Yeah.
Do it.
Yeah.
Don't try.
Yeah.
Do it. Commit. It's that same Navy SEAL commitment thing. That's awesome. I love that. And that's, I don't know, I got goosebumps thinking about that. It's awesome.
Yeah.
So your equipment evolved. You mentioned you got some stuff in the early days, and then they started paying you. But I remember you, and we probably need to start talking about a bike, because all of your time in triathlon evolved and you're mechanical?
Industrial engineer.
Industrial engineering degree from Iowa. I can poke fun at that a little bit, can't I?
Sure. I mean, we'll go after it right now. So my father and my father-in-law are both construction engineers from Iowa State University. And I realize when people think of engineering, they think of Iowa State. But
100%.
But I would like to remind all the engineers out there that it's actually much more difficult to get in the engineering school at Iowa than it is at Iowa State.
Well, Iowa State, they let anybody in.
That's right.
Then they try to kill you in the first 2 years.
Right.
Like, especially the first year, it's half the number of people enroll the second year. But yes, you're right about that. In Iowa, you have to apply.
You got to apply, and it's exclusive. It's hard to get into. But yeah.
Yeah, anyway, I can pick on you. I've got two sons graduated from Iowa State.
Yeah.
They made it through the first 2 years.
Yeah, that's really what it takes. My dad would say that same thing. So.
Yeah, I think anybody who's been through Iowa State would say the same thing. And so I know you've got engineering chops. You end up working on aluminum. But I remember you riding a zip bike, a beam. They call it the beam.
Yeah.
Zip.
Let me get into the bike history here for you, Dave, so you kind of know how this all progressed, right? So.
Well, I don't want you to leave out the.
Oh, we'll get into it.
Okay.
We'll get into it. So I started out. I was working for let's go all the way back. My first bike, we talked about the giant Cadex. After that, I bought a Quintana Roo Kilo triathlon bike.
Sure.
Bought it online for like $800 or something like that. I mean, it was brand new, right? But it was like an $800 bike. 650C wheels. I raced that at Collegiate Nationals, and then raced it at Age Group Nationals. After that, I was working at Alcoa Aluminum, and Alcoa made all the aluminum for Cannondale bikes.
Oh.
So Optimo was a proprietary 6061 T6 aluminum on all the Cannondale bikes, exclusively by Alcoa. And so the purchasing manager for Alcoa hooked me up with the sponsorship guy from Cannondale, who I was living in Kansas at this time, so I didn't even know this guy, but you'll get a kick out of when I say his name, Rory Mason.
Oh, for sure.
So Rory Mason's a Des Moines guy, and he had no idea I was from Des Moines, right? Because I'm living in Kansas,
Sure.
working. And so it wasn't until I took that Cannondale to Bike World that all the connections started to be made with that. But so I rode a couple different Cannondale bikes, and I won Age Group Nationals on a Cannondale. I won Eagleman on a Cannondale. And at that point, Rory was giving me full bikes, like at the time it was Campy Record, because Campy was sponsoring their Pro Tour team. And then Rory told me that, hey, I've kind of outgrown what he can do for me, so he would like to help me find another bike sponsor. So for a year, I rode a Guru.
Sure.
So
I actually had a Guru once.
Yeah, so I rode a Guru for a year and raced it well, did well on it. And then the first big money contract came from Specialized. So that was 2007, I rode the Guru, and again, my life changed at that point. So I was making some money from Guru, but not a lot. Big money contract from Specialized, and I thought, for sure I was going to ride Specialized for the rest of my career. Man, I fell in love with the company. I was out in Morgan Hill. I'd met with Mike Sinyard. I was like, man, this place, this is it. Like, this is every athlete's dream, the big S. It's fantastic. I'm in. I'm great. Well, I tell people all the time, oftentimes your relationship with a company evolves around your relationship with one person at that company. Oh. And some of the hardest things that happen in sport are when that one person leaves, and oftentimes in my case gets promoted to a different job, then somebody else fills that job, and if you're not their guy, then you're out of a job, right? Like that's how it worked. So I was out of a job at Specialized after a couple years that I thought were the best ever, and was looking for a bike sponsor. I rode a Parley bike, so I flew out to Boston, met with Bob Parley, the late Bob Parley. We talked about me trying to work with them to help design a bike, and I wanted that working knowledge of the bikes and to make it great. Nothing ever materialized with an actual contract, but I did, race the bike, and I raced it for most of an entire year. I raced it at the World Championships. And then I was without a bike sponsor, and I just couldn't find the right deal. It was either I could get good money or a good bike. I couldn't get both. Like companies that were offering me good money, I didn't like the bikes. I'd tested them out. I'm like, oh, this isn't. It's not up to my standards. I'm not going to like it. And so this is right before Ashley and I were getting married, but she was like, listen, like, you're making good money at this point. You don't need the bike sponsor anymore. Like, you needed it at one point, but she said, just go buy whatever bike you think is the fastest. And there were 3 of us that were pro triathletes and engineers that were on the Zip Wheels test rider program. So Zip was my wheel sponsor, and there were 3 of us that did all the rider testing and logs on their new wheels, their discs, and their Firecrest wheels were new at the time. And we just logged thousands and thousands of miles on these wheels, and broke spokes and all these crazy things. And we also went to the wind tunnel to test these wheels. And at the time, the gold standard in frames was the Cervelo P3 Carbon.
Sure.
Okay, so that's what Zip used to test all their wheels. And one year for fun, they had this bike project that was a beam bike that they made in the mid-90s. And the Cycling Federation, the UCI, banned those beam bikes in 1997. So 1996 Olympics in Atlanta, every cycling medal in time trial and track racing was won on a non-traditional bike. Okay, the Cycling Federation, and I'm going to tell another joke here, so don't get mad at me. But
you are a dad, so it's legal.
The Cycling Federation said, listen, it's too much technology. We want the athletes to win with drugs, not technology. No, they didn't actually want the athletes to win with drugs, but for those who follow the sport, you kind of know what I'm talking about at the time, because that was kind of the heyday of the doping scandals in cycling, and so it seems kind of funny that they chose to crack down on frame technology at the time, but they chose that. So,
well, now it's sock height.
Right. Yeah, I mean, gear restrictions,
right.
I mean, you name it, right? They go after strange things. But they banned them, and at the time, triathlon just wasn't big enough to sustain it, so almost every manufacturer stopped making those designs. They just kind of laid dormant for a long time. We wind tunnel tested this bike in Charlotte, North Carolina at the A2 wind tunnel, and it was faster than the Cervelo P3 Carbon at every yaw angle except for 0. So dead on, that P3 Carbon was a little faster. As soon as you put it at yaw, meaning in a crosswind, the Zip got significantly faster. And so I told Ashley, I said, you're going to think this is crazy, but I want to ride one of these 15-year-old Zip bikes. She's like, yes, you are crazy. She said, but if that's what you want to ride, go get one, make it happen. So
how do you even get one at that point?
Yeah, so I call my buddies at Zip. So Dave Ripley was my sponsorship guy at Zip, and I said, hey, I want to buy one of those bikes. What can you do? And he said, I know a guy who works in the factory here at Zip who has one in his garage. He doesn't ride it. It's one of the clear coat ones, and we only, the best 100 of them that we made each year were clear coated instead of painted. So I said, sweet. I said, tell him I want to buy it. What's he want to sell it for? So he sold me that frame for $1,200, which good deal, bad deal, I don't care. I wanted the frame regardless. So I bought that for $1,200 and had to do a bunch of modifications to it because it was made for a quill stem. It was made for 8-speed mechanical. So we just had to modify the frame a little bit. And I remember I was riding 10-speed mechanical SRAM on it, and it was 15 years old at that time, that frame was. So it was made in 1996.
So this is around 2010-ish?
2011.
2011.
Okay, so I got married in January of 2011. July of 2011, I won Eagleman 70.3 on that Zip, and then I won my first, so that was my second Eagleman that I won, and then I won Lake Placid, New York in July, my very first Ironman on a 15-year-old Zip bike frame.
Is everybody just like looking at you like you're freaking living on Mars?
Yeah, I mean, they think I'm crazy because then if you actually look at my cockpit, the aero bars that I put on that bike.
Let's talk about the aero bars that you put on that bike.
I was running aero bars in a praying mantis position. And again, I didn't invent the praying mantis position. Like, it was already around. Cycling has thrown a fit about it over the years. And if you go back and look at Dimond in the early days, that's pretty much the position that he rode in aero bars. But I was one of the first guys to spend a bunch of time in the wind tunnel and also pay my own money to go to the wind tunnel and try to work on my position and develop it. So I take my stuff to the wind tunnel and I find this position, and then I need something to hold it into place. So I'm at a Big Five sporting goods store in Tucson, Arizona. That was my winter training home, and I found some junior nut cups, not the adult size, the junior ones.
Junior.
And they fit my
little elbows.
They fit my elbows really well. Junior.
Yeah. Are you still 155 pounds at this point?
No. So I wrestled 152 in high school, but I weighed about 163.
Okay.
Even
so
when
you
I
still
was
have
wrestling.
tiny little elbows.
Yeah. I need a snug fit, so I'm a junior youth cup in the elbows. And then I took kids' shin guards and I flipped them upside down and then inverted them right to left. So it's actually, your shin is basically the same shape as your forearm. And so I bolted them together. I literally attached them with physical bolts and then bolted them to my aero bars, and that's what I used. And again, this is 2011, and I'd started these first iterations in like 2009 with the cockpit. But if you look at the Ironman World Championships now, today, you will see that every pro is riding in a very, very similar position with a similar setup to what I was riding in 2011. And I can tell you I was the only one doing it at that time, right? And again, people were thinking this guy is from Mars, but I'm just saying I'm taking above average ability and trying to maximize it with technology and science and engineering. And so that's what I did. I won on a 15-year-old bike with nut cups and shin guards attached to it.
How many pictures of your bike showed up in, were there magazines then?
Oh yeah, all over the place, right? I mean, it was cool. And again, other manufacturers started making some of those products, which I thought was really cool. I was most interested in the bike frame. So after I won that Ironman, I called the guys at Zip and I just begged them. I said, hey, you got to start making this frame again. It's so fast. You have to start doing it. They're like, listen, our number one customers are frame manufacturers. We don't want to get in that sandbox. We don't want to...
Because they're selling wheels.
They're selling wheels, right? And aero bars at the time, but we don't want to upset the apple cart of our customers, so we don't want to do it. But we have two engineers that work for us that are very passionate about this project too. So if you want to hire them to moonlight with you, we're cool with it, because we would love to see this brought back too.
Huh.
So these two guys, David Morse and Carl Hall, met me in Boulder, Colorado for a long weekend, and we had a hackathon, and we made the first Dimond prototype frame.
Made it, or drew it on a napkin?
Made it.
Really?
Made it. They're sitting on the counter right next to us.
Let's go stand in front of it while you tell the story.
So we had this hackathon, we designed it, we made molds, manufactured this thing, and it's not super light or anything, but it's a cool frame. We designed it. It has a lot of differences between the one we actually made. But, for a weekend in Boulder, we actually made this frame out of carbon. And, I smashed all kinds of these testing them, because we had to learn as we're going through. And a lot of carbon isn't necessarily the design as much as it is the layup. And so you learn a lot about carbon going through the layup process. But, yeah, we made those. And this is, we did that hackathon in May of 2012. I raced one of these frames. I raced that frame on the wall, actually, at the one and only Ironman New York City. And I can tell you the biggest thing with that frame is, man, if you rode behind me, you would have seen the wheel just flexing side to side like crazy, right?
You didn't have your layup quite down to the sides
yet? It wasn't perfect yet, but I was so proud of the bike and the frame that regardless, I was going to ride it. And I can remember that frame that we actually raced on. We were here overnight the night before I flew to New York City, working on trying to finish it, right? And so, was that ideal race prep? No. But it was super cool in that, I rode my own bike that I built at my factory in Des Moines, Iowa, and made it work, right? In a pro race. So it was good.
Let me ask you this. You went from hacking together this carbon duct tape together there's no duct tape on it, but it sure looks like it was duct tape, carbon duct tape, to a factory in Des Moines, Iowa. Like, where was that transition? Are you again a Navy SEAL and are like, I'm doing this, or I'm going to try this?
Yeah, so I mean, one, David Morris during this time actually left Zip and came and worked for me full time. Okay, so that was part of this whole process. So August of 2012, I raced Ironman New York City on this frame that we designed on a weekend in Boulder, Colorado. November of 2013, we have this frame that pops out of our molds in our factory right here.
Huh, wow.
Okay, so this frame on the wall was the very first one. We took it to the wind tunnel it's called the Faster Wind Tunnel in Phoenix. And at that wind tunnel, they had a bike that had a crown over the top of it because it was the fastest bike they'd ever tested in the wind tunnel. And it was a Cervelo P56. Okay, a rim brake bike, still the fastest bike Cervelo's ever made. And they had this bike at the wind tunnel, and it was the king. Okay, and so these guys are dying because they want to see if this little bike that we make is going to even come close to as fast as Cervelo, which is a much bigger company that spent a ton of money on engineering and design. So we do the wind tunnel testing. These guys at Faster are totally floored because it is faster than the P56, and fairly significantly faster when you're talking about bicycle design. So we studied it, we took it there, we got a bunch of press from it, we published the wind tunnels, wrote a white paper, and that bike we actually had a guy race at Arizona. So he'd never ridden that bike, raced this bike. He's just an age group triathlete. His name's Scott Cheney. He rode that bike, qualified for Kona. It's not even the right size bike for him, right? It's too big. But he rode it, qualified for Kona, and then the very next year at Kona, he rode his own Dimond. But that was the very start of it. So he raced that bike. That's November of 2013. March of 2014, we start shipping bikes from this factory all over the world. And I've got a map in my office here that's my first 100 customers. And where I made the mistake was I bought a map of the United States. And I thought, my first 100 customers are going to come from here. Let's get this. No. Not even close. Out of my first 100 customers, over 20 of them were international.
Wow.
Totally unexpected, right? Like I was like, oh yeah, well, I could ship this to Europe or Asia or Australia or anywhere you want. So I started shipping internationally already, and those are marked with latitude on the U.S. map.
You didn't just go buy a freaking map at the map store and...
I mean, I could have, but it would have been so hard because then the U.S. is tiny, right? And I wanted to see the heat map of the U.S., like where the customers are coming from. So that's March of 2014. August of 2014 is when we had explosive growth with the company. That black frame on the wall, it's matte black with gloss black logos. It looks way older than the one next to it, which is why I never have a matte frame again. But that bike I raced at the 2014 Ironman North American Championships in Mont-Tremblant, Canada. Won the race, set a course record. So it's one of 4, Continental Championship Ironman races. It was a tremendous race. The fastest bike course record. It was phenomenal performance, and of course I did it on a bike we built in my own factory in Des Moines, Iowa. So literally, if you go to Tremblant to race, and they no longer have the Ironman, it's just a half Ironman, but there's still a giant poster of me that Ironman uses on that bike in town, right? And it's cool, but it's such a big success story for the company. The next 2 frames that are hanging on the wall, I've got the first Marquee frame. So this was like the Brilliant was our first iteration that we made here. The Marquee was our first upgraded frame that we did. And then the next frame is our first Marquee disc frame that we made here. So then we have the Mogul and the Icon, which will eventually hang there when they get further along the production line. But they're not hanging up at this point.
I'm looking at bikes without forks. Your frames on the wall don't have forks, and then sitting in front of us is this beautiful flame-painted Dimond with dude, that front end is like F1.
Yeah, it's super cool. So the original forks, if you look at this fork right here, the original fork, we had ambitions to make a fork right away. The problem was we used this 3T Funda Pro fork, and this is the same fork that Cervelo was using on a lot of their bikes. The problem was that this fork was so hard to beat in the wind tunnel. It took us a very long time to beat this. So our first bikes actually shipped with this exact fork on it. The next fork we made is this, and we call this the Super Fork. It's really cool. It has this magnetic cover that goes over the brakes. This was actually Jesse Thomas's bike. Jimmy Navarro airbrushed this in the lava for him. Jesse just recently sent this back to stay in the Diamond Mine Museum. It's super cool. But yeah, I mean, this bike is rad, and the front end is really next level. It's super integrated, looks really cool.
Do you mind if I post pics on Instagram? All right, I'll post some pics of these guys on Instagram when this episode drops.
Yeah.
Oh, I'm seeing a little Cannondale.
This is Cannondale. This is the awesome. Cannondale. It's not hanging up, but I won Age Group Nationals in 2004 on this frame, and you can see right here it says Optimo.
That's the
Alcoa aluminum here
for sure.
on it. So it says Alcoa. Let's see. It says Alcoa alloy sculpted by Cannondale. It's a cool frame. If like you weigh this frame to one of my frames now, like you'll see it's an absolute tank, even though it's aluminum.
This is a tank?
Oh yeah. Wait, I mean, we'll weigh it just to see. I'll go grab my Radiant SL, my new lightweight road frame, just so we can say. And this does have bearings in here. It's it's got some hardware on it, but we'll get a cheap idea of what this weighs versus a new frame. So you can see aluminum frames were light, right? And this is painted, and we'll get an unpainted one just to see, right? But we'll get the weight on it.
Walking to the scale, perpetually hanging on the wall. 15.9, or is that 150?
That's grams.
1,590 grams.
Grams.
Yeah.
Okay. And that's a size 54.
It looks tiny.
Yeah.
Doesn't it?
It does look tiny. I mean, small head tubes like this on a 54, you just wouldn't see these anymore. But that's got a little bit of hardware on it, so that's all relative, right? It does have derailleur hangers and a seat post collar, and bearings in the bottom bracket. But that's a PF or that's a BB30, not a PF30. That's a BB30, which was a Cannondale design. So it's a lightweight bottom bracket. But we'll grab our new Radiant SL unpainted frame in a 54, just so we can see what the weight difference is.
Yeah, as we walk back to look for them. What you're grabbing is not and actually I can say triathlete frame. It's not a time trial frame. Those beam bikes are specifically triathlon because USAC. Would you put that in my hands?
Yeah.
Wait.
Yeah.
Oh, I am.
Yeah.
I am holding it.
Yeah.
That's crazy, man. You can't ride them in USAC races.
So you can ride them. You can ride the beam bikes in USA Cycling time trial events.
See the name who I gave it to.
Sure, TJ Tollakson.
Thank you. Have a good day.
Yeah, thanks. Okay.
You can ride them in what?
So you can ride our beam bikes in USA Cycling time trial events, right? So
Individual time trial?
Yes.
Okay, so they are legal for that. Could you take them to the Olympics?
You cannot take them to the Olympics for cycling.
So they're UCI
not legal, but USA Cycling legal, right?
Huh,
so
okay.
Masters Nationals not allowed. Any UCI event not allowed.
Yeah.
But almost every USA Cycling race allows beam bikes for time trials.
Okay. So
And Elkhart allows them. Here we got it.
Elkhart allows anything. I've got a
that's right.
1984 Pinarello that was from Michael's Cyclery team.
Yeah.
And I rode that in Elkhart one time. They made a whole category for me because it's got the like 650 front and 700 rear, cool. And super cool looking. 830 grams.
So this is a size 54. It's got no hardware on it, but it does have a threaded T47 bottom bracket on it. Size 54, so same size as the Cannondale. It's 830 grams.
That's crazy. That's half the weight.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a little math off.
Yeah, right.
Generally, half the weight.
Yeah.
And what we're looking at is a road bike.
Yeah, that's a road bike. This is a triathlon bike here, but it's a double diamond frame. So,
but you've expanded your line from the triathlon bikes to USAC legal, not UCI legal, beam bikes to road bikes, gravel bikes, and even a mountain bike?
Yeah, and so I would tell you that definitively that this Aero road frame is way more aerodynamic than this Aero triathlon frame from 2004. So that just kind of gives you an idea of like where we've come technology-wise. Obviously the weight is a big deal, but beyond weight, it's just aerodynamics have come a very, very long way as well.
Yeah, they have, and it's guys like you thinking about it.
Yeah.
And thinking like, hey, how could we make that 1% change?
Right.
3% change that we hear talked about in the Tour de France. Can you find that 1% more?
So one of the biggest areas that's super obvious when you look at these is tire clearance. So if you look at this, these tubes are shaped specifically widened in the middle here to be narrow, and they fit a maximum of a 23 millimeter tire, right? And so now we look at this bad boy here and the tire clearance back there, and that baby will fit a 34 back there if you want.
Nice.
And so, you saw on the tour, most people riding probably 30s, so 28 to 32 was the range that people were riding in the tour. And so you'll see all of those, and we're not going much higher than that.
On a road bike?
On a road bike, because the trade-off is really the aerodynamics, right? And so it has a sweet spot of lower rolling resistance, but then once you're riding over 25 miles an hour, the aerodynamics of the wheel and tire interaction matter a lot, and so it's got to stay aero. And of course, there's more than just the tire. I mean, the fork and the rest of the frame matter.
The whole cockpit, the wheels. I mean, gosh, you're kind of doing it all, and it's hard to keep this in an hour-ish.
Yeah.
And talk about everything, but your beam bike, I don't know what that's called, but I know Tyson's riding one.
Yeah, the Mogul, yeah.
The Mogul.
So Tyson rides an Icon, which is our lightest frame that we manufacture, second most aero, super low side force on it though, but the Mogul, the Icon, and the Marquis, that's our current triathlon lineup.
And tell me about beyond that, the road, the gravel,
Yeah, so I mean, this new road bike is brand new. I'll kind of tell my story because it's relative to Des Moines. So we had planned in 2019, I did a Goldman Sachs program called 10,000 Small Businesses. And it's a Goldman Sachs program that's free in exchange for 5 years of small business financial data. So you give them 5 years of your financial data, they give you this class, which is like, I tell people it's like MBA style classes focused just on your business.
Wow.
And so it's about a growth plan for your business. And my growth plan was to launch my own line of handlebars and wheels. And so this was my plan in 2019. COVID hits in 2020, and so part of that plan was we were going to launch a road bike and a gravel bike in October of 2020. So this had all kind of started, and we're working on wheels and bars and integrated cockpit, and have this plan for October 2020. And October is kind of where bike companies historically, Interbike used to be in September, but Kona is where our world championships were. And so when we wanted to launch new products for the following year, that's when we would do it. and then January 2020 rolls around and we get the first, delays from the suppliers, and they're saying, hey, we got this weird virus going around and some of your shipments are going to be delayed. And, we're thinking like, what, 10 days? Like, not a big deal, right? This is January. March of 2020, everyone's hit the full-on panic button, right? And we're like, oh, everyone's going out of business. We're not going to do this. And I've got employees working here, and I just said, all right, I'm super worried about this. The only thing everybody in the company is working on now are the road and gravel bikes, and we've got to get these out. We got to get them out as soon as possible. And the two first gravel bikes that we made belonged to Jeff Goodman and Dave Vellante.
Nice.
So in 2020, they both bought bikes, and of course during 2020, nobody could buy anything, but because we were making bikes here and wheels and bars, we were able to sell bikes. Now, they didn't always have matching component group sets and stuff, but we were able to sell bikes throughout COVID because of this. And I said the hardest part is like, it was way more expensive for us to do business during that time, and one of the reasons, we'll take the component companies, for example, Backcountry.com, who everybody's familiar with and likes the company as good web presence and it's convenient. They bought the lion's share of North American components from both SRAM and Shimano. Okay, so when I couldn't buy components, SRAM says to me, we know who has them, Backcountry, you just have to buy them at retail. So here I am, I need to sell a bike frame. I'm buying derailleurs from Backcountry.com at full retail.
Wow.
To put on a bike to sell a bike, right?
Wow.
And so we survived that year and sales were okay, but obviously profitability went way down during that time period because of that. And I think we've all learned a lot of lessons, but I think that was probably the biggest lesson for SRAM and Shimano is we probably shouldn't have let Backcountry order 12 times their normal annual volume in one order. But whoever those sales guys were, it didn't really matter. Because
they had a good day.
They're like, man, look at this order I just closed.
For sure.
All done. And we didn't know a lot of things that were going on at that time. So we survived and we're still going. And but yeah, we launched those road and gravel bikes in 2020. This is our first update on a road bike. We have since launched a second gravel bike as well. So, the trend, we launched our first gravel bike. All of our bikes, we call them Go Fast bikes. They're all race bikes. We don't have any e-bikes. We don't have any enduro bikes. We don't have downhill mountain bikes. They're all Go Fast race bikes. And so we do cross-country mountain bikes, hardtail and full suspension. Gravel racing bikes, and the first gravel race bike has a max tire of 700 by 42 or 48 by 650B. And the new gravel bike does a 700 by 50C tire, right? I mean, that's what, and it has universal derailleur hanger, so does the road frame, so it works with SRAM's new 13-speed and their transmission group sets. So it's just, continuing to modernize, stay up with the times, make sure you're leading edge with functions, features, aerodynamics. That's what we do.
Huh. It's super impressive. It's hard to perceive what is actually happening when you see Jeff Goodman and Dave Vellante. Dave Vellante's, that's an old, Crockett or Boone you painted, isn't it?
Well, that's one of his bikes that he has that we painted here, right?
Which is gorgeous.
Yeah, it's super cool. Great
every time he shows up on that, people stop and look at it.
Yeah.
But they show up on their Dimond, you show up on your Dimond, and you just kind of they must be selling a few frames. But you've got a whole factory here.
Yeah.
You're employing people here. Yeah. You're still in business. Ashley's still married to you, so you got to be bringing home at least $5 a week.
Right.
How are you making it all work? It can't be cheap, and it can't be easy. Yeah,
it's not cheap right now, and I will say this year in particular has been really challenging with the company, and it has mostly to do with exports. So I talked about it from the first. So year one, I was exporting 20%, right? Since then, my export business has continued to grow, and it's roughly 30% of my business. So 30% of the stuff that I manufacture here exported to a totally different country, right?
Wow.
Except for this year, less than 10% of my products are being exported.
Wow.
So I don't want to get super political with the whole thing, but I can tell you that the two areas in the world that are really hurting me right now is Canada is 0 bikes this year.
Wow.
So nobody from Canada living in Canada has purchased a Dimond bike this year. And it's not just mine, it's any bike from America. And then Europe's the other one. So I've got a good relationship with a distributor in Europe. I tried to do an activation with them in Nice. The reality for them is that American products don't have the demand they did a year ago. And so it's really challenging, right? And so that, it's a 20-plus point gap in what I'm doing, but you can imagine, like, well, I'm in the bike industry. It's not like we've got crazy margins and it's super profitable. So that's probably where the biggest pinch point is right now with us. And so...
Are you getting killed on imports? As well?
Man, no, the import side is really, really crazy. So you didn't see it happen today. None of this stuff that was just dropped off while we're recording this had a tariff on it. But we're in such a strange place with the import tariffs, and it's all over the board. So it's fairly typical for UPS, DHL, or FedEx to come with a package that has tariff due on delivery. And then you've got to write a check to the UPS driver that day for the amount they tell you.
And you just don't even know what it is until it shows up.
Well, you used to pay all this in advance ahead of time.
When it hits the shores.
Yeah, well, you used to be able to pay this in advance before it even shipped.
Yeah.
Okay, so you just pay a customs broker, and the tariff rate was stable. It wasn't going to change, and so you knew what it was. You bought this stuff, pay your broker in advance. They handle the transaction. Everything is fine.
Right.
The tariff rates have been all over the place, and now they're talking about going all over the place again. We don't know. And so now you pay the tariff when the rate is the day it enters the country. And so then it's obviously usually only a day or 2 days between when it enters the country and you get it. And so that's the rate you pay. Huh. You don't know what it is.
Yeah.
But everything I said, from Supreme spokes from Belgium to tires from Germany to derailleur hangers from Taiwan, from Giant, right? Like, it doesn't matter. Like, everything's coming with its own tariff, and you just pay it, right?
Huh.
I mean, you don't have
Makes it hard to plan.
It makes it really hard to plan. It's just a difficult situation, and a lot of people ask me this question: what do you do? Do you raise the price on your products, or what do you do? And I said no. I said right now I just make less margin on them. And it's back to the COVID thing, and there's only so much you could sell a bike for, right? My bikes are already expensive. An average bike is $10,000 out of here, and so it's an expensive bike. And if you say, well, just pass those tariffs on, a 40% tariff, we're going to pass that on to the customer. No one's going to pay 14 grand for a 10 grand bike.
Right.
And we're still, as the bike industry in general, still in the COVID whiplash stage, right?
Sure.
And so we're slowly starting to come out of that, right? But we had way too much inventory in the system, and there was rampant discounting across the industry, right? Because there was too much inventory.
Yeah.
People are like, we got to move this product, get it out of here. And then the other thing that we don't do, which is all the rage right now, is all the bikes being sold in the country right now are all e-bikes.
Yeah, they are.
We don't do any e-bikes. We're down the road pretty far on an e-mountain bike. The biggest reason we turned it down is the insurance premiums went up 25% for every bike shop that works or sells e-bikes. It only takes a couple shops, factories to burn down on e-bike fires to raise those insurance rates. We just did the math on the back of a napkin and said, hey, is it worth going down this when we think this might be 10% of our sales? No. We'll just avoid it. And so if somebody comes in with an e-bike, asks for service, we just refer it out to another shop.
Yeah, that's fair. Problem. That's fair. So you've got a great story, and I love I'm in, gosh, almost going on 4 years of this. Episodes 166, 167. So I've talked to a lot of people, and sometimes you like really have to work to pull words out of whoever you're talking with. That is not the case with TJ Tollakson.
No,
I appreciate your storytelling.
Yeah.
I love it. So if somebody's intrigued, they want to go faster, I feel like every one of your bikes would help somebody go faster.
Yeah.
I mean, that's kind of what you're doing, right?
Yeah, we make incredible bikes that are super fast. We also, every bike we do is custom painted here, and so you get to choose your paint and everything else. So it's a really cool experience. We have customers that fly in here from all over the world just to be a part of this process, pick the bike up in person and see it, touch it, feel it. Obviously, we have local customers in Des Moines that are kind of spoiled if they want the same experience because they don't have to fly from France to do it, right?
100%.
Just
100%.
be here and see it. And
they are bleeding out of the eyeballs hanging on the wheel of the owner.
Right, yeah, right.
You're still fast.
Yeah, I still ride a bike.
You do still ride a bike. How does somebody get connected with you? How do they go about? What's the ordering process? What's the acquisition process for somebody who wants to ride one of these? So
90+% of the customers I talk to on the phone, like on my cell phone, regularly through the buying process. We sell less than 10% of our bikes directly online on our website. And it's not that we don't sell them, it's just that when somebody makes these purchases, they usually like to talk to somebody to make sure, like, am I making a mistake doing this? What do you recommend? So I talk to 90% of the people that buy bikes, and even the people that buy online, I'm always going to email them or call them and just say, hey, this is what you're getting. Let me know if this is everything that you actually want to get. And it works out well. So I talk to people, the build process, we have it down. Our lead time is as short as 2 weeks, as long as 8 weeks, depending on some exotic components they may want to order.
So 2 weeks, we've got a bare naked frame hanging here.
Yeah.
In 2 weeks, this could be out the door painted and built?
Yep.
Huh.
Yep.
And paint, how's paint work? Like you said, custom.
Yeah, so this is UD matte carbon fiber right now. So this is what our SL paint looks like. So what we would do is we would put stencil decals right here, airbrush logos on here and right here, head badge on there, and that would be your frame. It would be matte black, just like this.
Cool. Okay.
With logos. That's our ultralight version, which keeps the frame absolutely the lightest. Otherwise, once the frame gets painted, it'll have a full set of primer around the whole paint that then gets sanded and roughed to make sure the paint adheres really well. Paint adhesion is very important when you do it. Then the paints, we use full automotive paint. And so any paint that you see in a car, we can put on your bike, any color. If you have a BMW that you like the blue on, we can match that and put that on your bike. What differentiates our paint from most bike paints is, one, we paint here instead of Asia. So bike paint in Asia is way more durable because they're still allowed to use metal-based paints. We are not allowed to use metal-based paints in the United States. So the durability isn't quite the same, but it's the same way. If you buy a car that's painted here, it's the same paint that goes on the car, same adhesion method. And automotive paints versus bikes paints are usually they're more expensive, but the paint is much more vibrant because it's mixed and has different layers, and a lot of them are metallic paints or 3-coat paints. They call them tri-coats. So those paints just have more depth in the color, and then they use pearls, metallics, and then we do color change paints as well. And so we also paint, every year we paint a lot of bikes that are not diamonds. So people have bikes that I need a bike custom painted. Hey, you do this. That process kind of starts around $600 and then goes up from there. I mean, some paints are $3,000, right? I mean, it's all a matter of, you do some paintings, you understand, but it's all a matter of how much time you have somebody working on it, right? Sure. And so if Jimmy Navarro is going to airbrush lava on your bike, you got to pay for it. Got to pay Jimmy his time to sit and airbrush the lava, right? right?
Yeah.
So we do that. And then Steve Fry's our mechanic here. A lot of people on the show would know Steve Fry. He spent 20 years as the head mechanic at Bike World. Fry's a good friend of mine and has been for a long time, but he's been here about a year. He runs what we call the Dimond Speed Lab. So he does chain waxing and ceramic bearing installs and any sort of upgrade that you would want to existing frame. Steve Fry does all of that, and he's very, very passionate about it. And if you know him as a mechanic, you know he's meticulous, super detail oriented, and he's probably the most humble mechanic you've ever been around. Because he's very unassuming. You wouldn't think this guy has all this industry knowledge, but
yeah.
He's fantastic. So we do that, and he also just works on bikes here too. We don't work on e-bikes, but about any other bike. Steve Fry does service and tune-ups and changes tires and any other bike mechanic work.
And it's Dimond without an A.
Yeah, Dimond without an A. You want to know the story behind it? Okay.
I was just going to ask, what's the story behind that?
All right, so...
Hey, TJ, do you have a story?
I always got a story for you, Dave. You didn't know it. So a traditional bike frame is called a double diamond design, right? Okay, so that's frame building 101. Double diamond frame means it's got a front triangle and a back triangle to it.
And that is Ernesto Colnago in his garage brazing together a double diamond frame.
That's right.
That's where it came from and what still is.
So a beam bike is called a diamond frame, okay? And it's called a diamond because it's a single diamond frame. Okay, there's no double diamond. It just has a front triangle, and the whole thing's open. So Dimond is single diamond frame, and the part of the frame that's missing on the Dimond bike is the A-frame.
Oh.
Single diamond, no A.
No A. I love it. That's great.
It's about as nerdy as you can get.
It is, but you're an engineer, so you can be a nerd.
Right.
I love it. I love it. And your website?
Yeah, dimondbikes.com.
Dimond Bikes?
D-I-M-O-N-D. No A. Dimondbikes.com.
All right. Well, thanks, man. I appreciate it, and I'll look forward to, we'll see you Thursday night.
I don't know if I can make Thursday night. Nights are hard for me because I got 3 kids that I basically play Uber driver to on nights. But
I got to tell you, I'm driving to a job, and I turn a corner, and I see a guy on a bike and 2 kids on bikes, and I'm like, dang, those are nice bikes the kids have. And then as I turn the corner, I look at the bikes, and the 2 kids are on Dimonds, and I was like, I mean, that dude's doing all right to buy his 2 kids a Dimond. And then I look at the dad, and it's you. And I was like, oh, of course, of course.
Yeah, so it is really cool. That's an awesome story, Dave, because my kids have the nicest, most tricked out bikes you can have, way more than any kid should have. But I sell and I make a lot of really cool kids carbon fiber bikes. I make a cool kids balance bike that I started making when my kids were racing balance bikes, so that's cool. That thing I have on sale just because I'm not going to make them in the future because my kids are way out of that stage, but those are $200.
That's awesome. That's unbelievable.
$200 for a carbon fiber balance bike. It's got ABEC 3 steel bearings in it. That thing races like nothing you could ever buy or make for anywhere near that price point. But I also make kids road bikes, which is a market that's just kind of been lacking. So if you have a kid as young as 10 years of age that's looking for a road bike, I make carbon fiber kids road bikes. And it's wild because obviously I sell a decent amount of them here to kids who race in the Z3 triathlon program.
Sure.
I coach there. But I ship these kids road bikes all over the world because there's just kind of a shortage. It's a very weird market to make 10-year-old road bikes.
Yeah.
Road bikes for 10-year-olds.
But you're absolutely right. It's hard to find. A good road bike for a kid is hard to find.
Yeah.
That's awesome. Anyway, thanks tons, man. Look forward to seeing you on the road.
Thank you. Yeah.
I really enjoyed diving into the story of TJ and his Dimond bike brand. And as someone who was always kind of on the outer edge of his circle, I kind of knew stuff about his bike brand. I kind of thought I knew a lot about what he was doing and his triathlons, but honestly, I hardly knew anything. So I really loved diving into the story of both his triathlon days and how Dimond bikes came to be. And if you are bike curious and you want to explore the Dimond mine, you can start at dimondbikes.com. No way. And if you want some real eye candy, you have got to dive into the Dimond Instagram and Facebook pages. Seriously, just scroll through the photos and see these works of art. I've always thought a bicycle itself is a work of art, and Dimond takes it 4 steps beyond that. They're gorgeous. And as you get serious about clicking that buy now button, I'm sure you'll be talking to TJ yourself. All right, it's November, and the time has come to lock in your Core 4 2026 plans. Registration launch day is November 21st. So get ready to jump on launch pricing and use the code CORE4LAUNCH26 for a first dibs deal until December 31st at core4.bike, where no surface is left untouched. And thanks again for tuning in. I would love it if you would give a rating and a review wherever you get your podcasts. Of course, subscribe. And while you're at it, give us a follow on Instagram and YouTube. And every episode is available at biketalk.bike. Well, peace, joy, and happiness, everyone. I hope you have a great week. Enjoy your fall rides. And remember that nothing compares with the simple pleasure of riding a bicycle.